Hi guys, I'm Justin. I'm 16 years old. The sun is my number one enemy. You know why? Because I'm allergic to it. I spend my life running away from sunlight. I have the most rare and dangerous type of sun allergy. I can only go outside at night. That's why I call myself the Son of Darkness. We found out about my allergy when I was 6. Until then, I didn't have any problems with the sun. We were on a picnic as a family. My sister and I were playing frisbee after lunch. We were throwing it back and forth. We'd been playing for a while when I noticed that my arms were itching. I tried scratching them, but when I did, they started turning red and hurting a lot. I ran over to my mom to show her the redness. She thought it was just sunburn. She was surprised because we'd put on sunscreen in the morning. Stay in the shade for a while. We'll put ice on it when we get home, she said. I did as she said. I sat in the shade under a tree. But the pain was only getting worse. I couldn't take it anymore and I started crying. That's when I realized my face was hurting as well. The salt in my tears was burning my cheeks. I ran to my mom again. She panicked when she saw me. I developed big red blots on my face. Some of them had even turned into blisters. We went to a hospital right away. That's when we found out that it wasn't just sunburn. The doctor said that I was allergic to the sun. I was going to have to keep away from sunlight for the rest of my life. In medicine, it's called solar urticaria. They don't know what causes it. The immune system reacts to the ultraviolet rays emitted by the sun. Like all allergies, it can range from mild to severe. Like I said at the beginning, mine is the worst kind. I'm not supposed to be exposed to sunlight for even a minute. My whole life changed in an instant. I was now stuck at home all day with blackout curtains covering the windows. I could only go outside after the sun went down. It was very difficult at first, but humans adapt to everything. I was mostly sad about not being able to go to school. I stopped seeing my friends. I was still talking to some of them online, but it wasn't the same as hanging out in person. Our friendships weakened. Eventually, we stopped talking online too, so I became even more lonely. Well, you adapt to that too. In fact, you even start seeing the bright side. For example, I play guitar really well because of it. Of course, I've had a lot of time to practice. Also, thanks to my allergy, I have a really good relationship with my sister Tamara. For years, she was the only friend I had. Another important issue is education. I study at home. I'm lucky that I'm a disciplined person. I can sit and study for hours. I also take some private classes online. I just need to take exams to get my diploma. So far, everything has been going well. I think I'll even be able to get a college degree. I think college will be less problematic because there are schools that allow you to do everything online, even the exams. Eventually, I'll have to get a job that I can do from home. I have to take that into account when choosing what to study. Of course, another option is working at night. Maybe I could become a DJ at nightclubs. I just thought of that now. It's actually not a bad idea. Let me think about this a little bit. Last year, my parents prepared a wonderful surprise for me. As a birthday gift, we moved to the city we live in now. You know why this is such a great gift? Because it's a resort town. There's stuff happening almost 24 hours a day. Cafes and restaurants stay open until really late. There are always people in the streets. As someone who can only go out at night, these things are really important for me. We used to live in a small town. Shops would close at 6 and restaurants around 7 or 8. So when I'd go outside, I'd just walk around with nothing to do. Here, even at night, it's like daytime. Most importantly, I used to have pretty much zero friends. But not anymore. I have a group of friends that I meet up with 3-4 times a week. We sit around a campfire by the beach and talk until late at night. Some nights, I play the guitar and my girlfriend Betsy sings. Yes, you heard it right. I also have a girlfriend now. I had gone out with a few girls before, but they don't really count. Betsy is my first actual girlfriend. Her family has a summer house here. She spends most of her time sunbathing and swimming. When we first started hanging out, I could tell things were going to get serious. I couldn't say, Betsy, we can only see each other at night. I can't meet you during the day. You would want to hang out with your boyfriend all the time. But my allergy would stop us from having a normal life. So I decided to keep it a secret because I was afraid of losing her. Eventually, we became boyfriend and girlfriend. We kept on seeing each other only at night. I thought she knew that something weird was going on, but she didn't say anything. We only planned to do things after sundown. We didn't even talk about meeting during the day. I was so afraid that she'd asked to do something earlier. What could I say when she asked, come over to our place for a swim? I was getting so anxious just thinking about it. One night, I had a dream in which I was a vampire. And Betsy was a vampire hunter. She was hiding her true identity, waiting for an opportunity to stab me in the heart. It was a really funny dream, but it really shook me. It was wrong of me to hide such a thing from the person I loved. That night, I told her about my dream. And then about my allergy. She didn't believe me at first. She thought I was still joking about being a vampire like in the dream. She finally realized I was serious once I started talking about my isolated life. It turns out, I had been stressing about nothing. She wasn't aware of anything weird. She thought I was sleeping all day because I was out all night. And this was the reason why I wasn't going out until nighttime. She came to visit me the next day. She got really emotional when she saw the thick curtains. She teared up. This must be so difficult. I understand it better now, she said. I showed her the house. She asked why my room had both curtains and window shades while there were only curtains in the other rooms. My sister was with us then too. She started crying when she heard Betsy's question. I held her. It's something that happened years ago, but Tamara still gets upset about it. She was just a kid when it happened. Like I said, Tamara had been my only friend for many years. We'd play together all day. She loved hiding somewhere and scaring me. Yeah. One morning, she came into my room, saw that I was still asleep, and hid behind the curtains. She tried scaring me by making weird sounds, but I was sleeping too deeply and didn't hear her. So she finally got bored and left. But as she came out from behind the curtains, she accidentally opened them. I didn't have window shades then. The sun hit my face through the gap. I ended up being exposed to it for an hour. When I woke up, my face was all red and swollen. I felt that something was off, so I touched my face and it hurt really bad. I screamed really loudly. My mom ran to my room. She called my doctor when she saw my face. The doctor arrived and tried to make me feel better. She said that I had dodged a bullet this time. Apparently, sun allergy can cause the trachea to swell, which leads to difficulties in breathing for some people. I never had such a problem, but since I was exposed to the sun for so long that morning, it was a matter of minutes until I had trouble breathing. There was even the possibility that I would never wake up. My sister still feels guilty about that day. So that's why my room now has window shades in addition to curtains. You might be wondering if I'm getting treatment. Like I said at the beginning, there are different types of sun allergies. There are some medicines that can help alleviate the symptoms, but those don't help me because my allergy is so severe. I'm very unlucky in that. I had a really good doctor where we used to live. He really wanted to help me and try different treatments. One of these was using an ultraviolet lamp in order to get my body accustomed to such rays. It's called phototherapy. It made a lot of sense to me and I got my hopes up, but nothing changed after months of treatment. So I got really depressed. I decided that I didn't want to be disappointed like that again. I resolved to plan my life to keep on living the way I do now. In the future, if they do find an advanced cure or treatment for what I have, of course I'd give it a try, but I don't think that's likely to happen. Still, you should always have some hope and be grateful for what you have. There is a genetic disorder called XP, which has been the subject of movies. It's a 1 in a million disorder. People with this condition can't go out in the sun just like me, but in their case, the sun can cause terrible things like blindness and deafness, and their average lifespan is 35. They usually die at a very young age. When you think about it, we have the same problem, not being able to go out in the sun. But there is a huge difference between us, so I think you should be grateful for what you have, as some people have it much worse.
Hi guys, I'm Tiffany. I didn't have any allergies until I was 16. But last year, I developed an illness called cold urticaria, or cold allergy. When I say cold, I don't just mean cold weather during winter. I'm allergic to all types of cold, including ice cream. I even have to sleep while wearing socks on hot summer nights. I'm pretty sure you'll be shocked to hear of all the things I've been through. My dad has been working for the same company for 12 years. He'd been in the same position for years, so he wasn't happy. Last summer, he finally got the promotion he'd been waiting for. He decided to take us to a beach resort to celebrate. We hadn't been on a beach holiday for a long time, so we were really excited. We got on the road early on a Saturday. It was really hot, so we had the car's AC on the whole way. When we got to the resort, I noticed there were red spots all over my body. They were itchy, too. I didn't care because I was in such a good mood. We didn't know it back then, but it was because of the AC. We came down to the lobby after leaving our stuff in the room. My dad said he had to send a few emails for work. My mom and I went to the seaside. The beach was absolutely amazing. There was a pier that stretched out into the sea. Everyone was diving into the sea from it. After sunbathing for a while, I wanted to go for a swim. My mom said, "I'm going to stay here a little longer. You go ahead. I'll catch up later." I was happy because that meant I could dive from the pier. My mom would have never allowed it. I did it just as I had imagined. I ran down the pier and then made a perfect dive. In the water, I felt like 1,000 needles were prickling my skin. I didn't understand what was happening. So I thought, did my feet touch a sea urchin? I had to come back up to the surface. I realized it wasn't just my feet, but my whole body that was in pain. I said to myself, I must have touched some jellyfish. They sting like this. I didn't see any jellyfish around, but I couldn't think of any other reason. I no longer felt good, so I came out of the water. When my mom saw me, she jumped in panic. "Tiffany, what happened to you?" I didn't realize that my entire body, including my face, was covered in red blisters. Everything was itchy, too. When I said, "I got stung by a jellyfish, it really hurts," my mom said, "Let's go to the room and put some lotion on." I didn't want to, but I said okay. We later learned that my body had an allergic reaction to the cold water. At the time, we didn't know that one could be allergic to the cold, so we didn't imagine that that was the reason. I keep saying allergy, but many of you might not know what this illness is really about. Don't bother Googling it, I'll tell you what it is. Allergy means the immune system has extreme sensitivity to something, but this is, in fact, a false alarm. The immune system isn't supposed to react, yet it activates its defense mechanisms unnecessarily for unknown reasons. Allergy is a widespread illness. Some people are allergic to dust, others to peanuts. Some people's immune systems react to cat fur, while others to bee stings. I am allergic to the cold. My immune system activates its defenses and starts giving a variety of reactions when faced with cold. These reactions are usually redness, itchiness, swelling, and blisters on the skin. It would be fine if it stopped there. However, it can be really dangerous too. And unfortunately, I had a very bad experience. It was a week after the resort incident. I met up with my friend Leah. She had wanted to get a tattoo for a long time. We visited all the tattoo parlors around, but she wasn't happy with any of them. We were sweaty from the heat, so we stopped by an ice cream shop on our way. They had the AC on, so it was cool inside. We decided to eat the ice cream inside and got a table. After we got our ice cream, we were chatting and eating at the same time. After a short time, I felt a tingling and then an intense burning in my throat. I stopped and tried to understand what was happening. Leah realized that something was up. "Tiffany, are you okay?" she asked. All of a sudden, I wasn't able to breathe. I felt like there was something in my throat and it was blocking the air from coming in. I held my neck with both hands. I opened my mouth really wide to breathe, but no oxygen was passing through. The last thing I remember before I passed out was Leah screaming, "Something happened to my friend! Please call an ambulance! Please hurry!" I was at the hospital when I opened my eyes. My mom, my dad, Leah, and a doctor were there. Everybody was happy to see that I was recovering. "What happened to me?" I asked. The doctor smiled. "You said you couldn't breathe, but everything looks normal. I think you had a panic attack, so the reasons for this must be psychological. Get some rest. You'll be fine tomorrow," he said. My parents and I weren't satisfied with the panic attack explanation. On our way home, we decided to visit another doctor to get a second opinion. We went to a really famous doctor. He did a comprehensive examination. He listened to me carefully as I told him what happened. Finally, he said, "I don't think this is a panic attack." He did a bunch of tests afterwards, but he wasn't able to give a diagnosis because all the test results came back normal. One day, when I was at the supermarket with my mom, she said, "Can you get some frozen peas? I'll grab some milk and eggs. I'll meet you by the cashier." I went to the frozen food aisle. I opened the huge fridge. It was really cold. I looked for peas for like 15 to 20 seconds. I grabbed a pack once I found them, then I closed the door of the fridge. That's when I started itching. I had red spots all over my arms. I took out my phone and looked at my face. It was also covered in red spots. I realized what was happening. I ran to my mom. She was shocked to see me that way. I teared up and said, "Mom, my problem is the cold. Cold stuff does this to me," and started crying. Yes, I had diagnosed myself. We immediately went to a dermatologist. He agreed with me when he heard my story. This is called cold urticaria. It's also known as cold allergy. It's very rare. I've only seen 3 cases so far. You're the 4th. But I need to do a test to make a definite diagnosis, he said. The doctor gave a small ice cube to my mom and said, "Put this on Tiffany's arm for a few seconds." My mom did as the doctor said. It felt prickly where she put the ice. Ice does normally hurt, but this was really painful. Afterwards, my arm swelled up and had red spots. It was itching really badly, too. The doctor said, "You can remove the ice. Unfortunately, this is the worst case of cold allergy I've seen so far." So it was official that I had a cold allergy. Honestly, the diagnosis didn't make much of a difference in my life, because there is only one cure for this allergy: staying away from cold weather and cold things. You can take allergy medicine, but like with most allergies, it's not very effective. You know that I had problems during the summer, so imagine how it would be in winter. Last winter was so difficult. My mom drove me to and from school. She would heat up the car before I came out of the house. I spent very little time outside, but I still had to wear really thick clothes. I looked like an astronaut. I had a hat that covered my whole face, a really tight scarf, a really long jacket that was filled with goose feathers, thermal tights, a really thick pair of pants, and thermal gloves that you'd usually wear when skiing. Even with all these precautions, I still had 3 or 4 incidents throughout the season. One of them was actually really funny. Guess where the allergy got me? In the bathroom! The toilet seat was cold. I sat on it in the morning without checking. The result was a disaster. My backside was completely red. Thankfully, I didn't get blisters, but I couldn't go to school because of the itching. Will I be like this for the rest of my life? Thankfully, no. This allergy is usually seen in women between the ages of 15 and 30. It usually lasts 5 to 10 years and then disappears. So one day you wake up with a cold allergy. You live with this condition that affects your whole life for years. And then, just like that, it disappears. It's really weird. You can get more information about this allergy if you search on Google. If you think that you might have the allergy, you can do the ice test. But the best thing is to see a doctor. The illness doesn't have a cure, but it requires the support of an expert. Thanks for listening to me.
Hi friends, my name is Amelia. I have an extremely rare genetic disorder. This condition is so rare that there are only 400 known cases of it in the whole world. And I'm one of them. I'm sure you will be shocked when you find out what it is. You might not even believe it. By the way, you can subscribe to this channel now if you would like to know when new videos get uploaded. And if you like my story, please don't forget to like this video. First, I want to tell you about something that happened to me when I was 6, because that was the first time my parents realized there was something going on with me. There was a forest near where we lived. Sometimes we would go camping there. On one of those trips, as my mom was preparing dinner, my dad and I went to gather wood that we could use to start a fire. Suddenly, we heard my mom scream. Naturally, my dad ran back to her right away. It turned out that a giant snake had climbed onto the table and was sitting there right next to the food. My dad told my mom, "Honey, don't panic. I'll get rid of it right now." But all he could do was to try to shoo the snake away by making strange noises. Meanwhile, I had noticed that the snake was next to the chocolate cake. So without even thinking about it, I walked up to the snake and grabbed it by the back of the head. Then I tossed it away while my parents stared at me in disbelief. The snake was probably as shocked as they were. It quickly disappeared into the forest. When my mom screamed, "What did you do?" I just said, "It was going to eat our cake." Of course, what I did was incredibly dangerous. If the snake had bitten me, I could have gotten sick or even died. So how could I have done something so brave even though I was only 6 years old? I only did it because I'm not able to feel fear. I'm not scared of anything. It might sound nice when I put it that way, but this is a genetic disorder, and it's definitely not something to envy. People have 6 emotions. 1, joy. 2, sadness. 3, disgust. 4, surprise. 5, anger. And 6, fear. All these emotions are created by the brain. The brain decides which emotion we should experience depending on the situation we're in. But what happens if your brain is not familiar with one of these 6 emotions? That's right, you can't experience it. This is the problem with people like me. Our brains simply don't know what fear is. That means I'm the most fearless person you'll ever meet, but it's not something I can be proud of. Because being fearless is much more dangerous than you might imagine. It leads to unpleasant things happening to me. On a few occasions, I have even had close encounters with death. There's a park not far away from my school. Sometimes my friends go there after school to sit around and chat. One time, a man snatched a purse from a woman who was sitting on the bench next to us and started running away. Just as he ran by us, I stuck my foot out. The man tripped and fell on his face, and the purse went flying from his hand. Of course, she was very happy about what I had done. She thanked me again and again. But at the same time, what I did was way too dangerous for someone my age. The man could have had a knife or even a gun, and he could have hurt me in so many ways for stopping him. That day was just one of the examples of the type of dangerous situations my fearlessness disorder could put me in. So, was I able to change my behavior as a result of this? Of course not. Because I don't know what fear is, bad experiences like these unfortunately don't have any effect on me. No matter what I go through, I keep acting without any fear. Some of you might say, okay, you might have no sense of fear, then you should use your mind. In such situations, protect yourself even if you don't feel fear. Unfortunately, this is not possible. I've heard that normally when people are scared, their hearts pound faster, their breath gets shorter, and their palms get sweaty. I don't understand that I should be afraid because none of these things are happening to my body. Otherwise, I'm not stupid. My IQ level is pretty normal. There's no problem with my memory either. I don't forget the bad things that happen to me. But despite all this, when I see a giant spider, I grab it with my bare hands without even thinking about it. It doesn't occur to me to protect myself because my brain does not signal for me to be afraid. That's why I can casually do all these things that can seem foolish to you. Of course, there are courageous people out there. But as you figured out, this disorder is not the same thing as being brave. It's so much more than that. For example, when crossing the street, you should be checking to see if there are any cars coming. People who have my disorder even have trouble with something so basic. Unfortunately, most of the time I step out into the street without looking. I'll tell you something even weirder. Do you go near wild animals knowing they could rip you to pieces? Unfortunately, people like me might. During my first year of junior high, we went on a class trip to the zoo. After a while, we came to the tiger enclosure. We saw that there were 2 adult tigers and a cub along with them. The little tiger was, of course, super cute. Suddenly, I had an irresistible urge to pet it. There was a wall and a moat separating us from the tigers. I thought that I could jump down, swim across the moat, and then pet that little tiger as much as I wanted. So I decided to go for it and started climbing over the wall. Thankfully, the teacher saw what I was doing and was able to grab me before I jumped down. "Amelia, what are you doing? Are you insane?" she screamed. Because I didn't think I'd done anything wrong, I was trying to explain myself by saying, I was just going to pet the cub and leave. After this incident, my parents took me to a therapist. They knew I was a brave kid, but this was a little bit too much. The therapist asked me a lot of questions about similar incidents that had happened to me in the past. Afterwards, he told my parents, it seems like Amelia's problem is not psychological, and referred them to a neurologist. I learned that it was neurologists who specialize in issues related to the brain. In the neurology department, they ran many tests on me. For example, in one test, the doctor showed me photos of people's faces and asked me how that person was feeling. For the first photo, I said, he's laughing, so he's happy. For the next one, she's crying, so she's sad. In the third photo, there was a woman who was screaming. I said, she's screaming, so... And I was quiet. I realize this sounds unbelievable, but when I see the face of someone who's afraid, I can't understand that they are afraid. My brain is not only unable to create the feeling of fear, but it also doesn't register that other people are afraid because it doesn't have any idea what this emotion called fear is. Since my brain doesn't know it, I don't know it either. After these tests, neurologists gave me a definitive diagnosis: no fear disorder. Since this was a very rare genetic disorder, I became a case study in medical literature. From time to time, scientists come to visit me and perform new tests. Research on this disorder continues since its cause is still unknown. As you might have guessed, there's no treatment for it either. I will have to live with it for the rest of my life. So, are there any advantages to having this disorder? Thankfully, yes. I don't experience any fears that make life harder for people. For example, I've never been scared of taking exams, and that has always had a positive effect on my grades. I don't have a fear of public speaking either. Since I'm so comfortable, I always end up speaking on behalf of the students in parent-teacher meetings. I also don't have any phobias, such as the fear of enclosed spaces or the fear of clowns, and I will never have them. Finally, I always sleep like a baby when flying. I'm never afraid, no matter how badly the plane shakes while going through turbulence. Once, while flying through a storm, I saw lightning striking one of the plane's engines. I laughed and told my mom about it. She told me, "Amelia, you don't have to say these things to me. Not everyone is as brave as you are." My friends have told me fear can be pleasurable in certain situations. Of course, I'm missing out on all of that. For instance, I don't like horror movies because they don't scare me, and I'm not scared of ghosts or zombies or vampires. Scientists who are doing research on my disorder placed electrodes on my head and made me watch scenes from the scariest movies. Thanks to those electrodes, that could see what was happening in my brain in real time. The tests demonstrated that there was no activity in the part of my brain related to fear. This was something to be expected, but now it was scientifically recorded. Another thing that everybody loves, and I don't, is riding roller coasters. I gave in to peer pressure once and rode one even though I knew I wouldn't be scared. They lost their voices from screaming so hard. I, on the other hand, just got bored and looked around. Now you know my story with all its details. Fear keeps us away from danger. That's why it's important for our survival. But despite all the drawbacks, would you still want to switch places with me? Please leave a message in the comments. Thank you for listening to me. Sharing all this with you felt really good. Bye.